Hi, I'm AD Hughes, and today I'm going to teach you about the minor pentatonic scale. Okay, if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. Let's get cracking with the lesson. So first off, we're going to look at the first position. Now I'm going to use the key of G minor, and in the first position that requires me to look for a root note, a key note, on the E string. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to find a G note on my E string, and there'll be one just on my 3rd fret. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to play the scale ascending and descending back to this point, and it will look and sound like this. Let's move on to the second position. The second position starts on the D string. So what that means is I need to find a G note on the D string to be able to play the scale. I will find a G note on the D string on the 5th fret. And again, I'm going to ascend and descend through the scale from and to this point, but I will actually need to go past it on this occasion. So listen carefully, and this is how you should practice this scale. Now it's really important we start and finish the scale from the root note. It allows our ears to hear the scale as it should be played, meaning that all the intervals are always relevant to that root note. It also helps later on where we want to find scales across the neck without necessarily having to search for the first position to find it. You may notice with all the scales that you'll find 2 or 3 root notes in each position. I recommend always looking for the bassiest root note, the one you'll find on the thickest string. Let's look at the third position. Third position starts on the A string. So again, all I need to do is find a G note on the A string, and I can play the third position, and it will look like this. So you see I ascended and descended through the scale, resting again to stop on my G note. So it's the key of G minor pentatonic, so always finding a G note and applying the minor pentatonic scale. The same principle will occur for any other scale you play. Now we're going to play the 4th position. The 4th position also starts on the A string, but it moves in the other direction to the 3rd position. I can utilise the same root note, which is on the 10th fret, and this position looks like this. So exactly the same thing again. If you listen really carefully, I'm actually playing exactly the same notes in each position. You may stray one side or another on an octave, but pretty much always playing the same thing. So if I just play the first octave of the last few positions, you should hear the same notes. So here was the second position, starting on the D string. Here's the third position, starting on the A string. And here's the 4th position, also starting on the A string. That's one of the important things about starting it on a root note. It means you always get consistency for the sound of your scale. Finally, let's have a look at the 5th position. The 5th position starts on the thick E string, and it looks like this. Again, exactly the same notes, starting and finishing on a root note. You may notice at this point that I'm using different fingers, different parts of the neck. The general rule is that you use one finger per fret. However, in practice that will very much change, and you'll find when you're playing different keys you'll probably be using different fingers to play these positions. So use the one finger per fret principle, but take it with a pinch of salt. Okay, we've now played all the 5 positions. I'm now going to play them all together, and you'll see how each position links to the next. So I play positions 1 through 5 there. If I wanted to, I could carry on. It just means starting again, so that the 5th position joins up to the 1st position. Meaning that no matter how long your guitar is, you could always carry on using these 5 shapes to play through your scale. Now, in terms of practicing this kind of thing, you should look to obviously learn one position at a time and just concentrate on that one position. I would really recommend not focusing all the time and start on the 1st position and playing them as I just have then. It's useful in itself, but actually you should be able to find any position anywhere. In terms of trying to find some kind of randomness in this, a really good exercise is just to say, well, wherever your hand is, try and play every single key possible without moving your hand too far across the neck. So for example, if I go through the alphabet, I'm going to play keys of A, B, C, D, E, F and G. Let's do the A first. Now where my hand is, if I want to play A minor pentatonic, all I'd have to do is find an A note on the E string. Absolutely one there, my first finger, nice and convenient. And then all I do is apply the position, which would be the 1st position in this case. Now I want to play B minor. I'm simply going to find the nearest B note on one of my thickest 3 strings. There's one here. And play B minor. In this case, I'll be using the 5th position. On to C, I'm going to utilize the same position. On to D, I'm now going to use the 4th position because I found a D note here on my A string, which is nice and close. Now I'm going to play E minor as one of my A string, 3rd position in this case. F minor, I'm going to use as a 3rd position again. And finally G minor, my closest G is on the D string, so it'll be the 2nd position. So all 7 keys all in one place on the neck, meaning that I can find any of these scale positions wherever I like using that kind of principle. Now there's a few different things you'll notice as you're playing these scales and learning them as patterns and such. And for me there's really only 2 ways to play a scale. In my mind it's like a forwards and backwards looking shape. So to let me demonstrate, let's go back to that G minor that we first started with. The 1st position starts on the 1st finger, and all the notes fall from my angle, and it'll be the same if you're playing your instrument. Obviously you have to reverse all this if you're left-handed. But all the notes tend to fall on the right-hand side of it. Okay, so all the notes kind of fall after that root note. So to me that's like a forward-looking position. By contrast, if I look at the 3rd position, it starts on, I'm going to use my ring finger, you could use your little finger if you wanted to. But all the notes in the 3rd position tend to fall behind it in this case, to the left-hand side of my root note. So it's like a backwards-looking position. Now you only really get two shapes in that manner. You get a forward-looking one and a backward-looking one. So the 1st position is forward-looking. 2nd position is forward-looking. 3rd position is a backwards-looking one. 4th position is forward-looking. And the 5th position is like a backward-looking one. And if you look carefully enough, you'll see that actually the spaces between your fingers are always exactly the same. They always follow the same logic, same process. So if we look at that 1st position again, which is a forward-looking shape, it always starts off with a bit of a stretch. And then there's kind of 2 equal notes underneath it. With less of a stretch, that is. The 2nd position, a forward-looking shape, also starts with a stretch. And then 2 more comfortable notes underneath it, or 2 more comfortable strings under it, I should say. The 4th position, which is a forward-looking shape, has exactly the same shape. So still a stretch. And then 2 small looking shapes. Now if I look at the backwards looking position, they also follow the same principles, except for the backwards looking shape. So we have sort of backwards, back 2 frets from the start note, and then kind of dropping back to get to the next note, and the same in the 5th position. So if you look really carefully at all these positions, there are only actually 2 shapes within them. The only thing that's really going to throw it out is when you hit the B string or run out of strings, either above or below where you're playing. But they're always following the same principle. If you're looking to kind of move this stuff into changing position within a key, which is what you'd like to do if you're improvising, it's a good idea to try and visualize where these scale shapes are elsewhere on the neck before you make any transition, rather than playing from the 1st position through to 2nd, through to 3rd, and trying to play all the way up them. So let's say you were playing in the key of G minor. Put my volume back on so you can hear it. And in your 1st position over here. Playing all that kind of standard generic stuff. But rather than kind of working through your positions and doing what everyone else does and playing the same old licks, you could say to yourself, well, actually, I'm going to jump straight to the 4th position. How do you do that, though? Well, you try and do what we've just done in the scale lesson by looking for a root note. So if I was going to find the 4th position, I know that I've got to find a G note on the A string, which, if you've done this a few times, becomes a very quick process. I'll see one right there. And from that point, I can very quickly visualize my scale and where all the notes are from that point. Within a fraction of the second. So in terms of playing, I can play over my 1st position pretty comfortably because we play a lot there. If I want to switch to my 4th position, I don't need to work through. I can identify a point in my 4th position that I want to hit and hit it very easily. So the transition doesn't need to involve all the steps in between. You don't need to kind of work along the neck. You can just go straight from wherever you want to. And move into your 4th position in that instance. I hope you found that lesson useful. I'll do much more very soon. If you did, please hit like. Feel free to leave a comment if you have any tips or tricks for visualizing these scales. Otherwise, I shall see you soon. Thank you very much for watching and listening.